Before we dive into this segment, I just want to do a quick recap of what we've covered so far. A couple lessons back, we talked about the major scale, and we've been playing out of G right here in the second position, starting on the 3rd fret on the note G. And we talked about going through the scale note at a time and listening to the chord tones versus the notes that aren't in the chord or the scale tones, and we talked about varying degrees of tension, and then we did the same thing with a D7 chord or a D chord, and we talked about the modes and that's a Mixolydian mode. And in order to try to take this one step further and just to clarify things a little bit more, and I'll play this against a track in a minute and you'll hear this, all the notes are the same. The notes of the G major scale and the notes of the D Mixolydian scale are the same notes. The only difference is where we start and stop. And that's really only for academic purposes, really. I mean, I can play this scale and I can go whole, whole, half, and whole, 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 half, and the formula, and the same thing here, whole, whole, half, and then whole, whole, half, whole. And if I play from G to G, it does have a different sound than if I play from D to D, because I've shifted those half steps. But if I played a D Mixolydian scale over a G chord, guess what it's going to sound like? It's going to sound like G major. Likewise, if I play a G major scale over a D7 chord, if I play a D7 chord, it's going to sound like a D Mixolydian scale. Now, if I stop on the G, it might sound a little funny because of the reasons that we talked about earlier. But what you got to get with modes is that by themselves, if I just play up and down a scale, like a G scale, sort of randomly like this, I'm not really defining anything. I'm just playing a scale up and down, and we could call it any one of the modes and technically we would be right. It's only when we put the chord in the background that really gives it the sound of a particular mode. So the chords, again, this is what I've been trying to drive at this whole time, the chords are the most important thing. They're what drive everything. And we've talked about the chord tones and the tension tones, and what we're going to do in this lesson today is we're going to have a backing track where we're going just from G major 7 to D7, and I want you to practice soloing just using the G major 7 arpeggio over the G chord on the backing track and the D7 arpeggio over the D7 chord on the backing track. So let me cover these arpeggios for you and then we'll get right into the playing. So here's the G major 7 arpeggio. So it starts on the 3rd fret, 6th string, 2nd fret, 5th string, 5th fret on the 5th string, 4th fret on the 4th string, 5th fret on the 4th string, 4th fret on the 3rd string, 3rd fret on the 2nd string, 2nd fret on the 1st string, and 3rd fret on the 1st string. When you're learning this arpeggio and you're practicing this arpeggios, it's a good idea to do some alternate picking on that. So you can see here I'm using all alternate picking on that, down, up, down, up, down, up. And here's our D7 chord, D7 arpeggio. So again, as I mentioned in the last lesson, when you're doing modes and arpeggios, it's a good idea to stop and start on the root. So here I'm starting and stopping on the D, so I've got a D here, it's 5th fret, 5th string, F sharp on the 4th fret, 4th string, A on the 2nd fret, 3rd string, C, 5th fret, 3rd string, D here on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, F sharp on the 1st string, 2nd fret, A up here on the 5th fret on the 1st string, coming back down, and then I get my D again, then I got C here on the 3rd fret, 5th string, 5th fret, 6th string is the A, and then F sharp's here on the 2nd fret, 6th string, and then back up to the D. So one more time. the alternate picking. Alright, so that's the two arpeggios we're going to be dealing with, and one last thing here, this is really starting to make that leap. Again, I talked about this a little bit, we're making that leap into more intermediate and possibly even into like advanced guitar playing here. The ability to play through changes is really, it's very rewarding. It takes some effort, but when you get there, you're going to find that your playing sounds a lot better. So let me get the backing track on, and we'll listen to some G major 7 to D7, and I'll give you all this stuff, and I got some diagrams for you and stuff I'm going to hand out, so you can do this for yourself. Alright, I'll be right back in a second. Alright, here we go with our G major 7 to D7 track. And again, just to prove a point, I'm going to play from B to B here. Now this sounds like a major scale. It doesn't sound like Phrygian mode at all, because I'm playing it against a G major 7 chord. Likewise, here's the D7 chord. You know, it's the chord again that's making the scale sound like one of the modes, not the other way around. Now I'm going to solo just using the chord tone. So here's our G major 7. We're getting into the fade out there, so again, what I want you to do is make sure you know the arpeggios really well. I've given you enough measures there on each chord change to really give you the time to explore each arpeggio. Again, we're just going back and forth. G major 7, D7. Really use your ears and get the sound of the chords locked in. We'll expand this to the use of chord tones as we move along. I'm sorry, we just did chord tones. We'll expand this and include the use of scale tones as we move along. But for now, again, I want you to just concentrate on these chord tones and really work at it. It might seem a little difficult at first, and if you need to, you can just scale down. You might only pick maybe like, just restrict yourself to like those 3 or 4 notes out of the G major 7 chord, and then just maybe those notes right there out of the D7 chord. You don't have to use the whole thing. You can always break things down into smaller chunks. Alright, let me know how this goes, and I'll see you the next time around.